Guys, I've got good news. I know a lot of you were really concerned about this the other day, but I've got good news, okay? Top minds are on it. White House monitoring possible Iranian sleeper cells. You bet.
Immigration enforcement can decrease the likelihood of a terrorist attack.
Why am I looking at this inbred thing? Sorry, my anti-Southern, my Yankee bias is coming out. I hate him. I hate looking at him and hearing him.
Back in the U.S., it's just one of many reasons it makes sense to
Why do you look and sound like this?
Know who's coming into the country and why. But for 4 years, the U.S. was flying.
A more thorough reconstruction could have spared the world the presence of this phenotype.
Blind. How vigilant should Americans be stateside, and whose job is it to make sure terror cells do not emerge or activate here? We're joined by former Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf and former undercover CIA officer and Congressman Will Hurd. Welcome to you both, gentlemen. Mr. Secretary, what should Americans expect in the days and weeks to come? What are DHS and the Bureau looking for stateside in terms of something nefarious happening here?
Well, sure. Look, the Department of Homeland Security, along with FBI and the intelligence agencies, are looking.
This guy does look like a secret agent, by the way. He's actually got that look. That's crazy. I don't know why he has like a VHS film grain with like 1980s like green screened background. Look, I actually am kind of digging like what they're going for with this one. He does look a bit like DeSantis, but you see what I mean with like the grain filter and the like aura. You get it.
For any credible threats, any credible information that says something is going to occur here in the homeland. Absent that, and DHS has just issued an advisory today saying there is no credible information or threat, but we need to be aware that Iran can obviously strike back. I think the most logical aspect for them to do that is in a cybersecurity attack of some kind. It seems to be not as direct. They often hide behind different threat actors in doing that.
Well, that's boring. Iranian sleeper cells have entered the country. What are they going to do? Oh, they're going to do what they could have done from Iran. They're going to hack. Okay. AP News reporting Trump says Israel and Iran agree to a ceasefire. Who cares? What ceasefire? We bombed them. What ceasefire? What does that mean? What is it, like the ceasefire that Israel's had in Gaza or with Hezbollah, where they immediately ignored it? No. Who cares?
And we saw this in 2020 with the death of General Soleimani. So I think that's probably the most logical. There are cells here in the United States, such as Hezbollah and others, that they certainly could activate. I think that's going to be a little bit more aggressive if they want to.
Dude, okay, sorry. The Charlie Kirk cock-throating here. Jesus Christ. Huge breaking. A complete ceasefire has been agreed to by Israel and Iran beginning in approximately 6 hours in what history may very well refer to as the 12-day war. Oh, okay, he's quoting Trump here. Okay, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. No gag reflex. Yeah, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. From now on, by the way, you can expect to hear this from MAGites. You can hear the Trump put an immediate end to the 12-day war with his with his diplomatic skill. Or, of course, like an Israeli official is going to trip and stub their toe and, you know, fire missiles at Tehran again, and they're going to say that Iran broke the ceasefire. The 12-day war. It's nothing. It's political theater meant to distract simpletons. Pay it no mind.
De-escalate, then you're likely to see some type of cyber attack.
Will, I want you to put on your CIA hat for a second, even though we served together and it's wonderful to see you again. Can you harmonize the seemingly disparate statements about Iran's nuclear capacity? Was the country close to a nuclear weapon or close to being close? And did it even matter?
Trey, my mother-in-law always reminds me that the Iranian government has been trying to kill or kidnap Americans since 1979. They've killed over 1,000 Americans in that time. In the last 2 years, they've conducted over 200 attacks on ships in and around the.
Okay, we're not getting anything about sleeper cells from this one, I'm afraid. MSNBC?
I want to bring in NBC's Courtney Cuby covering the Pentagon. General.
What the? This guy! They're inventing new guys. This guy looks like the dragon underboss in a Bond film from the 80s. What the is this guy?
Leslie Clark is a former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. Andrew Boreen is former senior officer with the DNI and an executive director at Flashpoint. So, Courtney, tell us about your reporting on these threats to the U.S. homeland.
Yeah, so we've learned, according to our colleagues Carol Lee and Monica Alba and I, our sources, telling us that recently Iran sent a message directly to President Donald Trump, warning him that if he were to engage in U.S. military strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities, that Iran has
I want to see him talk.
First off, when we think about Iranian-aligned militia groups,
I was really hoping you'd have like a squeaky voice. Dude, you're huge. You're like busting out of your suit. You got to resize everything, frankly. Jesus.
Largely, for the last 40 years, been supported through the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and Al-Quds Force. Now, in terms of capabilities, two of the very senior-most Iranian leaders that had been pushing, for instance, tactics, techniques, and materials into some of the networks that were killing U.S. troops in Iraq with IEDs and some of the more sophisticated penetration charges have been taken off the battlefield as the Iranian regime and IRGC and Quds Force leadership is taken off the battlefield. And that I think, is a real concern.
So, General, what do you make of that? I want to look at the big picture and in country as well as out of country. But what about that idea of, for lack of a better term, what we used to call a lone wolf or self-activating? What do you see as the threat level there? And what's your level of concern for American forces throughout the region?
Well, here at home, I think there are sleeper cells. I think they could self-activate. I think they could do individual acts of murder against officials if they could identify those officials and get to them. They might go after sensitive infrastructure like the electricity grid. And you don't have to do it with cyber. You could do it with, let's say, explosives. So that would be one effort that they could make. Is it going to be significant?
This Drek is on MSNBC, by the way. Like, on MSNBC, they're having people come in here after, with no provocation, the United States and Israel bombing Iran, to go on and talk about how, well, yeah, they could have, like, deep sleeper agents activated with a single code word. Manchurian candidates programmed to take out the opposition with an activation phrase.
Significant, doubtless. It will be enraging the American people if it happens. It's the best way Iran could ensure a really dramatic strike by the United States that would enable the United States to really go after the regime rather than the nuclear. So I put that as low probability. I say the greatest probability is some of the militia, not Hezbollah, with a few rockets, and then ground attacks going after isolated American outposts, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, that area as a...
So he doesn't even think there's going to be sleeper cell attacks. Okay. No one's committing to their position. Boring. Boring, 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 boring. Commit to the bit, man. It's all bullshit. Yeah, it's all meant to, like, distract you from the fact that we just objectively instigated this with no provocation at all. Someone in chat earlier said apparently Iran has said that they haven't even received like a ceasefire offer. Like, why would we ever infer anything from a Trump tweet? Like, why would we ever assume that means anything? It never does. An Israeli ceasefire, what is that? Like a Chinese final warning? It means nothing. It's completely meaningless. You know the thing where, like, we keep mimicking the past, but like a transparent copy of it, a shadow? It's happening again. Because now, rather than using a war to prop up this failing regime, what we're instead going to get is like the puppet theater of us pretending to have a war, where every, like, month we'll strike Iran for no reason, and then Iran will go, the red flag of revenge has been raised, you will die soon, and then they'll fire 6 bottle rockets at an airbase 20 miles away, and then we'll, like, do a media cycle about that. Trump gets to tweet about how he'll bring this conflict to an end immediately, and the Islamists had better, you know, hold themselves up right now where it's going to be trouble next time, and then we just keep it going forever and ever and ever. The MAGA grifters will keep cycling between, you know, yeah, Donald Trump is the warrior who will never bring us into the Middle East again. He's the one who's going to break the cycle of American interventionism into, ha ha ha, ha we bombed Iran, ha ha ha, ha war for Israel, ha ha ha, into, we support a regime change. It's finally time for the Ayatollah to be taken down. We need to put a new Shah in. Into Donald Trump has called for peace. We support Donald Trump, the great peacemaker. Give it another week or so. Donald Trump would never engage in the Middle East. Forever and ever and ever. Yeah. But we're not even doing a war. Yeah, it's so unserious. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to even like cover it.
Let me bring in MSNBC military analyst, retired Colonel Jack Jacobs. Jack, this was the question. What would Iran consider to retaliate for the massive attack that was launched by and unprecedented attack launched by the U.S.? Again, we're getting this from Iranian state TV, but we have 3 new pieces of information that I want to get your reaction to. One is this attack. The second is that sirens are sounding not just at that base, but in Bahrain and Kuwait as well. And you have the president, defense secretary, and other key members of the administration in the Situation Room.
Well, the report was that there were half a dozen missiles, and we don't know how accurate that is. But clearly, if you wanted an off-ramp, to use the old trite expression, and you were Iran, you'd fire a bunch of missiles and be done with it. And hope that that was going to be the end of it. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. One report was that they were headed towards the our air base in Qatar, where, by the way, we have 10,000 troops.
This shit is boring. Give me
President
something.
Trump has just weighed in on Iran's attempt at retaliation
Give me anything.
for U.S. strikes on its nuclear facilities this past weekend. Trump, writing on Truth Social, quote, Iran has officially responded to our obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response. They've gotten it all out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible.
Chance of a sleeper cell false flag. Like, Chomsky couldn't have conceived of this. A reality in which the ruling class doesn't even need to manufacture consent because everyone's so stupid. Seriously, like, God, people used to...
Possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region.
Like, what is this? Thank you, Iran, for giving us notice they're going to fire some missiles at our nearby bases, making it possible for no lives to be lost, nobody to be injured. Why is he saying this? Why is he thanking Iran for firing rockets at our bases? Wouldn't it make more sense for him to say, thanks to advance planning and careful like defensive orders, no lives were lost, no injuries were suffered? Why is he acknowledging the fact that it's all theater? It doesn't matter.
And I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same.
All the missiles were intercepted. But the point was they warned in advance. Like, the point was this was the lowest possible bar for Iran to meet to continue to showboat for the benefit of their Islamist militias. You know? Like, it's not really thwarted. Like, that's kind of the point a little bit.
Political prisoners and Iran's military headquarters. CNN has this covered from every single angle. Fred Plaikin in Iran, Aaron Burnett in the United Arab Emirates, Jeremy Diamond in Tel Aviv, Israel, and Jeff Zeleny at the White House in Washington, D.C. We want to start things off with CNN's Fred Plaikin, who is in Tehran, Iran. Fred, what are you seeing on the ground there today, and what are you hearing from Iranian officials about what may come next?
Cool.
Hi there, Phil. Well, first of all, as far as this retaliation is concerned, a couple of hours ago, the Iranians came out with statements saying that they had, in fact, launched a barrage of missiles towards the Al Udeid air base, run, of course, by the United States in Qatar. They said, and this came from a statement from Iran's Supreme National Security Council, that the amount of missiles fired by towards their facilities by the United States, obviously indicating that this could very well have been a tit-for-tat response by the Iranians. The Iranians are calling this a decisive response, a robust response, and they also say that it was successful. The Iranian state media, Phil, is saying that 6 of the missiles came through and hit their target. Obviously impossible for us to independently verify that. Marvin. There were actually celebrations in the streets here in Tehran following that attack by the Iranians. And as far as today is concerned, we did see a lot of anti-aircraft fire coming here over the skies of Tehran this evening. Also, of course, preceding that were those Israeli airstrikes that you were talking about. Some of those airstrikes actually very close to our location. Earlier today, we heard
Fred Pleitgen, one of the few Western journalists in Tehran, having some issues there with his sound. We are going to keep in touch with him throughout the course of the show. Fred, thank you. Stay safe. I want to turn now to CNN anchor Erin Burnett, who is also in the region. She's in the United Arab Emirates, near the Strait of Hormuz, a key strategic waterway in the Middle East. Erin, Iran's attack today is only putting this entire region more on edge, it seems.
Yeah, more on edge. And of course, there's so much concern. I mean, if you look at between the airbase here in the United Arab Emirates and obviously the massive naval presence here by the U.S. Navy, as well as in Bahrain, where the Fifth Fleet is, and in Qatar, where you saw those strikes from Iran today.
Iranian sources confirm that ceasefire with Israel has been agreed, according to one source. The reason I don't care about the ceasefire is like, ceasefire to what? We bombed and missile struck them. We did it. Ceasefire to what? We struck apartment buildings in Tehran and dropped massive bunker buster bombs on their nuclear facilities. And in return, they warned us they were going to fire some ballistic missiles at our bases, like basically all of which got intercepted anyway. This is with Israel, not the U.S. I don't understand your statement. Israel is the U.S. It doesn't mean anything. None of this means anything.
You have up to 30,000 troops just here in the Gulf, where we're talking about right now, on high alert tonight, Phil. Concern about what could happen. There had been a shelter-in-place order that had been issued by the U.S. Embassy in Qatar for American citizens when those missiles started coming in, short and long ranges. Fred was just describing from Iran. You saw a panic even at a mall and a region very much on edge. Also concern that the threat to Americans, while most specific on U.S. bases and military installations here in the Gulf and across the Middle East, also extends to Americans, whether that be in the form of terror attacks.
Out of curiosity, do you think CNN played any videos of like civilians who had been blasted to bits by the Israeli strikes in Tehran? Or just like some Qatari rich fucks like freaking out at a mall that didn't get striked?
Or lone wolf attacks, or some sort of, bombing attacks. Those are the real concerns and questions among American intelligence, and also from sources saying what they are most worried about. But the airspace here, just to give you a sense of how dynamic the situation is, Phil, briefly when those missiles were coming in, we had people coming in from London. All of a sudden, you see airspace closed, people unable to get into the United Arab Emirates, temporary pauses and closures and reroutes. Airlines like Air France have changed their service and started to cut back service altogether to the UAE, just to give you a sense, and to Saudi Arabia.
Vaush, Trump just announced ceasefire between Israel and Iran. I know, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Weren't all of the Magites screaming about regime change a second ago? Is that done now? Oh my God, they've got J.D. Vance on. Aren't you supposed to be the vice president?
Iran in the Middle East, and some breaking news coming just now. Joining us this evening, Vice President J.D. Vance. Mr. Vice President, thanks for coming.
Absolutely, thank you.
Just seconds ago, the president went to Truth Social and typed this. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire. Complete and total ceasefire is what he typed.
Yep.
What does that mean? How did it come about? What's the development here?
Well, we were actually working on that just as I left the White House to come over here. So that's good news that the president was able to get that across the finish line. I think what it means, Brett, is quite simple. First of all, the president, without, knock on wood, having a single American casualty, obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. We are now in a place where we weren't a week ago. A week ago, Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran is incapable of building a nuclear weapon with the equipment they have because we destroyed it. So that's a very, very big thing. Now, what that means, I think, is we have to talk to Iran and, of course, to Israel about what the future holds. Because while we have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program, our hope and our expectation is that they're not going to try to rebuild that program. And I think that's what the president is really trying to figure figure out here is to build a long-term settlement here to where we can have peace in the region, where our regional allies and, of course, the American people, most importantly, can be secured, but where we can ensure that the destruction of the Iranian nuclear program that has already happened is not something they try to rebuild.
I want to get to the obliterated part in just a minute, but
I feel like the odds are very, very good, by the way, that we did basically no damage to that program.
I just want to read this fully so I get the context here. Congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point, the ceasefire for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted.
Why is Iran starting the ceasefire before Israel? So Israel can get a few more shots in?
By the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't. And
Jesus Christ! Bombs Iran. Bombs Iran. We're going to not bomb you anymore. We have prevented this war, which might have gone on for many years, from continuing past even its 12th day. Oh my God. He just wants, like, to call himself the ender of the 12-day war. It's never ending, dude. The cycle is never ending. I can't imagine. Can you imagine being a regular conservative and just having to, like, keep up with these talking points? Yeah, Trump doesn't want war in the Middle East. Yeah, Trump started war in the Middle East. We should institute regime change. Trump has brought peace to the Middle East. Well, like, just nonstop. It's crazy.
Never will. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless Iran. God bless the Middle East. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the world. He seems confident that this is all coming together.
That's right.
And when you left the White House, were you thinking this was all gelling here?
When I left the White House, I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that. I mean, look, he's been working the phones constantly. Frankly, before the 12-day war started, but certainly over the past 12 days, the president's been extremely clear about America's national objective here. It is to create a world where Iran cannot build a nuclear weapon. We, of course, destroyed the nuclear program that they had, and the president told the entire team, we're going to work to make sure that they don't try to rebuild that nuclear capability in the future. And it's, look, this is a great thing. For Israel, think about this. They've accomplished an important military objective. They've helped us destroy the Iranian nuclear program. They've also destroyed the conventional missile capability of Iran that threatened the country of Israel. For the Iranians, I think
in one bombing run? In one bombing run, in one night, we destroyed not only their entire nuclear program, but also all of the missile silos they have stationed across the entirety of the country that's larger than Texas? That's crazy. No, he said Israel. Israel has also not done that.
This is a new opportunity to actually pursue the path of peace. As I said yesterday, what the Iranians have showed through their support of terror networks, through their now failed effort to build a nuclear weapon, is that they're just not very good at war. And I think the president really hit the reset button and said, look, let's actually produce long-term peace for the region. That's always been his goal. I actually think when we look back, we will say the 12-day war was an important reset moment for the entire region.
Would you be surprised if Iran is sending out signals that it doesn't have a specific ceasefire plan? How would the communication have been with the Iranians to get this level of confidence to put out that detailed statement?
Well, one of the things I've learned, Brett, about the Iranians in the past, 4 or 5 months that I've been in this job.
He just tweeted it.
Is what they say publicly and privately can sometimes be very different. I think what the Iranians have shown very clearly is they don't want this war to go on for much longer. Their air defenses have been totally destroyed. Their conventional missile program has been largely destroyed. And of course, their nuclear program has been obliterated, as I said before. So I think the Iranians are at a place where they don't want to keep on fighting. you saw the president, and I don't have the truth in front of me, but he talked about the next 6 hours finalizing the attacks. I mean, I think what he's talking about is right now, for the American people watching, it's dark over there. That's typically when the Israelis and the Iranians have been shooting at each other. I think there's some recognition that that might continue for another few hours, and tomorrow really is a new day. The end of the 12-day war, the end of the Iranian nuclear program, and I really do believe...
I really feel like they came up with this title first. You know what I mean? They really came up with this title first. Who negotiates a ceasefire where you get a little extra window at the end? Like they were just like, no, we want it to be 12 days. So just, yeah, you have like a little extra window at the end there. So what do you think the rhetoric's going to be when inevitably we have to go bomb Iran some more, or Israel does? Like, what are they going to say? Like, Iran violated the ceasefire? Are they going to say Iran still has the nuclear program? Iran betrayed us. It turns out that somehow their nuclear program was not completely annihilated by one bombing run.
Of something very big for peace in the Middle East.
So you said totally obliterated. The president has said totally obliterated the Iran nuclear program.
Yeah.
Do you know for sure where all the highly enriched uranium is?
Well, Brett, I think that's actually not the question before.
Brett, I will kill you. You can't ask me for evidence of any of the claims I've made. You know that's not how this works. That's not... So my continuous claims that the reason this war is ending is because we've accomplished the goal of destroying their nuclear program, that whether or not we've destroyed their nuclear program is not germane to the point here. The point is that it's called the 12-day war, and Trump ended it.
Before us. The question before us is, can Iran enrich the uranium to a weapons grade level, and can they convert that fuel to a nuclear weapon? And we know, based on the success of our mission, of course, the leadership of the president, but the incredible skill of our military, that the two mission objectives are completely successful. We know that they cannot build a nuclear weapon. Now, you asked about...
I really want him to ask, like, how do you know that the bombing runs destroyed the enrichment, the refinement facilities in the base? You know, I would love for him, because he's probably not going to ask this.
About the highly enriched uranium.
Yeah, like 900 pounds of it.
But what we know, Brett, is that uranium is something that exists in very large supply. Our goal was to bury the uranium, and I do think the uranium is buried, but our goal was to eliminate the enrichment.
Uranium may exist in high supply, but enriched uranium doesn't exist at all in the natural world. What? If they have uranium that's been enriched to like 50 or 70% or something, that is not at all, like, that's very dangerous. Listen, their weapons grade uranium, it could be anywhere, nobody knows, but there's uranium literally under the ground. It's like a rock or something.
And eliminate their ability to convert that enriched fuel into a nuclear weapon. I think this is an important point, Brett, because so many of the folks who have focused on the highly enriched uranium, 60%. The main focus, Brett, has been to destroy their enrichment capacity.
But 60% uranium could still be used to make a dirty bomb. I like how J.D. Vance could have just lied and said, like, I guarantee we've destroyed all of their enriched uranium or whatever, because he chose not to for some reason. So now he has to argue that the somehow the total eradication of the Iranian nuclear program doesn't have to include the destruction of their highly enriched uranium.
Because we don't want that 60% uranium to become 90% uranium. That's the real concern, and that's what was so successful about our mission.
So after all this, if the Iranian government survives as is, what's to stop it from rebuilding over time if they, in fact, moved the 60% highly enriched uranium? You know, that's the concern.
No, the big concern, Brett, and this is, again, what we destroyed, is their ability to enrich uranium. If they have 60% enriched uranium, but they don't have the ability to enrich it to 90%, and further, they don't have the ability to convert that to a nuclear weapon, that is mission success. That is...
No! 900 pounds of 60% enriched uranium is not at all insignificant. That's like a good base to build off of. This is giving mission accomplished vibes. Yeah.
Is the obliteration of their nuclear program, which is why the president, I think, rightly is using that term. But here's the question. If Iran is desperate to build a nuclear weapon in the future, then they're going to have to deal with a very, very powerful American military again. Our hope is that
So that's what's going to happen in like a week or something.
lesson that the Iranians have learned here is, look, we can fly a bunker buster bomb from Missouri to Iran completely undetected without landing once on the ground, and we can destroy whatever nuclear capacity you build up. I think that lesson...
Wow, that's crazy, dude. You're telling me that America has the most advanced Air Force in the world? That's crazy. I bet they didn't know that before. Dude, the American dick waving goes so much softer when it's being done by people like this. It's so cool when you're looking at the stats and you're like, damn, we built that? And then watching J.D. Vance, his little throat waddling, go like, yeah, now the Iranian people, now they know we build a big plane and we can drop it on them. It's like, damn, way to make being a military superpower sound uncool.
Is what's going to teach them not to rebuild their nuclear capacity.
Yesterday, were you speaking on the president's behalf when you said he was not interested in regime change?
Well, Brett, what I've said is the American military, that is not our mission as regime change. Our mission was to destroy the nuclear facilities and the nuclear program of Iran, which we, of course, did. I think what the president's also said is that the Iranian people want to make a decision about regime change. That's between the Iranian people and the regime.
Do you think they're still going to be like this when our planet is stricken by climate change and people are like fighting each other for scraps? Like people are still going to be tuning into the radio and hearing like, hold on, word from the White House, the goal that we set in the past is no longer the goal that we had. We have a different goal now, a lower goal, and we accomplished it. And they're still going to be going, yes! We're going to have to deal with this our entire lives.
Of course, we support freedom fighters all around the world, but our mission was to destroy the nuclear facilities, and that's what we did.
So you don't think there's any mixed message when he goes to Truth Social and says it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? Miga.
Well, I think
in less than 24 hours, he followed this up with God bless Iran and thank you, Iran, for warning us about the missiles before shooting them at us. Incredible stuff, really.
What the president is saying very clearly, Brett, is if the Iranian people want to do something about their own leadership, that's up to the Iranian people. What the American national security interest here is very simple. It's to destroy the nuclear program. That's what we've done. And now that the 12-day war appears to be effectively over...
Just Canada. God, I hope that doesn't become its name in Wikipedia. Please don't call it the 12-day war just because the president and the vice president are calling it a 12-day war. Don't give it that. It wasn't a war. That's not how wars work.
We have an opportunity, I think, to restart a real peace process. And Brett, this is not just about two countries, Iran and Israel. All of these Gulf Arab states, they want peace. They want to invest. They want to build artificial intelligence hardware. They want to sort of come into the new economy. And that was impossible when you had Iran that was, as the president said, acting like a bully across the Middle East. We really think that
it's just unreality. Like it's designed to make you feel absolutely insane all the time. The idea that any country other than Israel is being the bully when Israel's bombed like 5 countries in the past year.
That if the Iranians are smart about the path forward, this could be a new dawn of an economic age of prosperity, of course, for our Gulf Arab allies, for us, for the Israelis, for everybody. But it's going to require the Iranians play it smart from here.
The president called it very weak, the Iran missile firing on the U.S. base in Qatar, Al Udeid. Was it a face-saving move? How do you get from that, firing missiles at a U.S. base, to a ceasefire, as he details in this Truth Social?
Well, as the president said, they actually gave us some warning here. And we think they gave us some warning because they didn't want to kill Americans and they didn't want to escalate. There's definitely some symbolism to this, Brett. If you look at the Iranian attack, it was 14 missiles that they telegraphed ahead of time. We dropped 14 bunker buster bombs. As the president told me earlier, our missiles, our bombs were a little bit bigger than their bombs.
It's already on the wiki. The Iran-Israel War, also known as the 12-Day War, is an ongoing armed conflict between Iran and Israel. Okay. They might have to change the name, though, when it goes on for more than 12 days, right? Like, again, this is an Israeli ceasefire. Okay?
Our bombs actually accomplished the goal of eliminating their nuclear program. But look, we're happy, again, to restart the peace process as the president just did today.
It's so transparent how much they're trying to, like, bread and circus us with this one. The fact that they sent the vice president to appear on Fox News Live as Trump tweeted out the ceasefire. Like, the idea, it's so weird. It's extremely weird for the vice president to be there as the ceasefire announcement comes out to immediately begin describing how everything was done flawlessly, etc., etc. But, you know, Cheney was pretty sure. Yeah, but it's a tweet! It's not even anything. It's nothing. It's all ephemeral. There's not even a war. It's just missiles getting fired at Tehran. That's not a war. A war is when you move equipment and people between countries. Now a war is just, well, every once in a while we... Jesus. This is a kerfuffle. Exactly. Make war great again? No, unironically, deploy the IDF into the mountains around Tehran. Do it. Netanyahu, do it. Do it, okay? The American military-industrial complex calls upon you. Do it. Send them in, all right? I want those motherfuckers getting trench foot and exposure.
Message delivered directly to the U.S. or through an emissary?
Make war great again, but I'm not thinking World War II. I'm thinking those, like, late 19th century wars where you look at the casualties, they're all in the 6 or 7 digits, and 95% of people died of famine, exposure, trench foot, or, like, gangrene or something, you know? Yeah.
The message is always delivered through some sort of intermediary.
I think Israel likes war when it's just them firing rockets we gave them for free at other people. I think they like war on those terms. And you hear about IDF soldiers coming home and crying about the PTSD they developed shooting children in the head. I think that maybe they would calm down a little bit if they were experienced war on a different set of terms. There's literally a vertical video of you on a hike calling it a war. I don't remember that.
That's been consistently true of the Iranians. Of course, we'd love to talk to them. The president's been clear about this. We'd love to have a direct conversation about how we move this thing forward because, again, we got to step back here. Why did the president do what he did over the past week? It's so that we could destroy their nuclear program. If they try to rebuild it, they're going to be on the wrong end of American power once again. We don't want that. I think they don't want that, but the ball's in their hands.
You've been reluctant or at least cautious about getting engaged previously, and that has been public. What made you sign on to this action this time?
Well, I think the president has been very clear, and I've always agreed with the president that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. And you try to run the diplomatic process as much as you possibly can. When the president decided that wasn't going to work, he took the action that he had to take. Now we're in a new phase. That action was successful. We had a wildly successful military operation to take out their nuclear program. Now let's go on to the next phase. And I think the president, look, sometimes he's willing to use peace. Sometimes he's willing to use the military. I think it really depends on what the Iranians do from here.
And what do you think they do from here?
Well, it's an open question, Brett. I don't want to predict what the other side will do, but I think that I know what we'll do. If
this shit's going to just keep on going. Remember, the whole point of this from Israel's camp was to prolong Netanyahu's war cabinet because he needs like a constant ongoing conflict to justify his extremely unpopular presidency. There is no way it stops because then what is he supposed to do?
Continue to pursue a nuclear weapon, and I hope they don't choose that path because I know the president wants to see the Middle East become peaceful and prosperous in the future. That's not going to happen if Iran pursues a nuclear weapon again.
And for the people, so we talked about the people who believe that this is going towards World War III, especially in your own party. There's a section that's very vocal. There's another section that says...
Yeah, it's called the section that voted for Trump. Trump was very, very loud about no more interventionism, no more foreign wars, I'm going to stop them. He was pretty loud about it. The section you're referring to is his main constituency.
You should take out this regime because it's evil and horrible and has done horrible things for decades. How do you square those two sides? And can this regime stay in place and still have a peaceful, reaction relationship with the U.S.?
Well, I think the president has squared those two sides quite well. One, because he's the leader of the movement, and a lot of people trust the president, as they should. They recognize they're not seeing the same intelligence. They're not seeing the same classified documents. They trust the president to do a good job. But importantly, Brett, I think he's threatened...
Donald Trump is not looking at any classified documents. He's getting phone calls from Netanyahu. We know he can't read. Again, not a joke. Every time I repeat it, somebody who's watching hears it for the first time. Donald Trump is so opposed to getting his intel briefings that they have tried to make them shorter, include his name more often, include photos, and at one point, an exasperated, not Nikki Haley, who am I thinking of? Tulsi Gabbard suggested him being presented his intel briefings via Fox News hosts. Like, they would bring Fox News hosts in and record a Fox News segment that he could watch where they would relay to him the information in his top secret intel briefings. That is not a bit.
The needle quite well here. We had a very particular objective. It was profound and difficult to accomplish.
Do you think
the elimination of the Iranian nuclear program,
Do you think they were close?
and I think the president successfully did that. You're asking, were the Iranians close to a nuclear weapon? Brett, they were very close to a nuclear weapon. And what I'd encourage my fellow Americans to think about here is that
not a position held by American intelligence, by the way, rather a position asserted by the president after he went to Camp David, talked to a bunch of deep state ghouls and Netanyahu.
The Iranians were quite close to achieving a nuclear weapon. Now they cannot build a nuclear weapon. That is the biggest testament to the president's leadership and to the success of our mission. In 1 week, without, thank God so far, not losing a single American casualty, we have taken what was a threatening nuclear program that could have destabilized the entire world. Now that program is gone. We did it through effective presidential leadership and also some very, very competent work from our troops.
How often does it happen where you're going to do an interview and you get a Truth Social seconds before? You have some sense.
Yeah, what a remarkable coincidence. What you're right. What an astonishing happenstance. That's crazy that happened like that.
But it's pretty detailed where you are being asked about something the president has just put out.
In this administration, Brett, it happens quite a bit, actually, but we knew this was coming. The draft, it was interesting.
I know you're going to yell at me for this, but Israel's carrying out more strikes and issuing new evac orders for Tehran. Well, don't worry. The ceasefire doesn't kick in for a little bit. I'm sure Israel will respect it once the time hits, though.
I just read the draft about 2 minutes before we went on the air. It was a little bit different from what the president had showed me a couple of hours ago. But again, I knew that he was working the phones as I was on the way over here. So I knew exactly what we were going to do. And look, I love that about this presidency and this administration is he's always working. He doesn't say, you know, the vice president's going to do an interview, so I'm going to stop doing anything. He says, you know, we're going to do the American people's business. The vice president knows what I'm trying to accomplish. And if I get it done, great, because we're going to talk about it and celebrate it, because it is a thing to celebrate. I can't emphasize this enough, Brett. We have destroyed the Iranian nuclear program. 0 Americans have died. That's an amazing, amazing thing. All
right, well, mark it here, okay? We'll see how many days or weeks it is before we go after that completely annihilated nuclear program again. I really wish this interviewer would ask what evidence they have it's been annihilated, but I know he can't, or J.D. Vance would have him, like, you know, shot.
Americans, whether Democrats or Republicans, we should be celebrating that.
Mr. Vice President, we appreciate you coming and rolling with the punches as well. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Brett. Good to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews.
Russian official hints at supplying Iran with nuclear weapons. Trump hints at regime change in Iran as U.S. braces for retaliation. Iran moves to close Strait of Hormuz. Iranians wave down with USA flags in streets of Tehran. They got a good point on that one.